Hello, I'm Derek Wheatley, and welcome to episode 17 of the Weekly Wheatley podcast. Thanks for your support as always. We're actually recording this a little bit earlier this week. We're recording on Friday ahead of the Wednesday episode, so hopefully nothing amazing happens in between. So then we just seemed like we just brushed over it. It was quite exciting. I was setting up the second microphone there. Last night it was actually. I was doing it. And I was just thinking to myself, I just don't have to do that much talking anymore, which is wonderful for me, obviously. I want to give a quick shout out to three of the lads who train in Fusion, Louis O'Sullivan, David Atterbury, and Oisin Mulligan, who's a fellow coach in there. They were raising money for Peta House. They were doing like 4 kilometers every 4 hours for 48 hours, which is tiring even reading that out. And I enjoy running, but that's ridiculous. Not having any proper REM sleep or anything like that. It sounds pretty exhausting. They finished at 6 o'clock this morning. Like I said, this is Friday. They've I think it's over €700. I think they've raised so far. So good on them. It's a great cause, and much respect to them for that. So yeah, I've got a guest here today. I was going to sing a little opening for him to the tune of Eleanor Rigby, but I won't. I was just going to do it because the Liverpool thing. Never mind. But it's a returning champ. He was with us on episode 4. Thanks for coming back on, Josh Chanin.
No bother.
How are you doing?
Is that 13 episodes since I was on? Jesus.
It seems like it doesn't actually seem that long ago, but yet at the same time when I was trying to get through the episodes.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting me back on this soon.
No, I'm so happy though.
It's unfortunate.
No, I'm so happy because there was a bit of a setup of who was going to come on, but obviously we have to keep in mind of where people live, whether they want to look at me. It's there's a lot of things that go up in the air like that. If you didn't listen to the last episode, first of all, it's quite rude not to. You should go back and listen to it because that was part 1 of Josh. So this is part 2. Josh, if you don't know, he's a pharmacist. So kind of first thing I wanted to ask about, because this is my first chance to interview excuse me, anybody since the lockdown. So what is his life been like in the chemistry business? That's not what the pharmacist business.
The alchemy world.
Yeah, how's it? Alchemy world. Yeah. How's it been for you in there?
I've just been incredibly grateful because it's not. I don't know how people are managing with the uncertainty of work and things like that. And if you're not an essential worker, I couldn't imagine the fear, especially when you have a family to look after. And my heart goes out to them because we've been just so lucky that we've been able to work.
Yeah.
Especially at the moment with the way locums are, it's hard to get locum work. So I've managed to secure a good place very close to home. So I've just been amazingly grateful. In terms of what it's been like in the pharmacy, people they were at the beginning, they were very panicked. And they were trying to get 3-month scripts at a time and all those sorts of things. But I think over the first month, everyone adapted well. And we started a delivery service pretty early on. And so everyone's just sort of calmed down a little bit. Sometimes a little too much, they'll just storm in because we're only having a couple of people in at a time, but they'll just storm in. But they don't know. They don't realize it until it's happening. They go, oh God. So yeah, it's a lot more straightforward now. It's kind of back to normal in terms of workload. But at the beginning, everyone was coming in, partly just to get out the house, I think. And partly because they wanted to get their medicine sorted, so it was one less thing to think about. So it's been interesting, but it's definitely made me appreciate my profession a lot more because I realised everyone else feels it's an important profession, whereas I kind of had a sort of a negative view of it, it wasn't that important, but it's clearly important to a lot of people, and I think that sort of settled me a bit to realise it, something to be proud of, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. And I think we had this conversation. It was a good few weeks ago now, and I was saying about the whole frontline word that's been out there for for a lot of different professions. Obviously, there's
been plenty of jokes made.
I'm sure there has on your side.
How heavy the capes are.
Yeah,
like,
but this is the thing, right? Because on your side, like, you'll have jokes and all that, but for me, like, going into, I haven't really gone anywhere bar like Super Value and the chemist next door to Super Value, and that's been kind of the kind of it. But when I go in there, I always think like, Jesus, like, fair play to those people for doing what they're doing, because they still are putting themselves at risk in a way. I know everybody's trying to be as safe as possible.
I just don't like. I'm lucky to have a great staff in the pharmacy that I'm in, where we'll just laugh. We have a dark sense of humor and we just laugh at it. And so I think that's how we've dealt with the extra little bit of fear that if you know, we're out and about, and everyone else is out and about. So if one of us gets it, we're all gonna get it. Yeah. And we just kind of laughed it off and just not thought about it, which I think is probably the best way for us to deal with it, so we can carry on with the job. Because if we have to stay calm, because especially at the beginning when everyone was freaking out and the governments all around the world weren't exactly, you know, beacons of leadership and calm. So I think they needed to look to somebody in some sort of authority that were calm, and they were fine. And it was, you know, kind of like, don't worry about the medicine supply. We're going to be fine. It's just 1 month at a time, all this sort of stuff. And it, you know, I think it felt good to be able to calm people down a lot. I think it was just having that presence. I
think it's funny, like, because I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't worry about the medicines that I had to get, right? But what the pharmacy that I was going into is so well laid out. Like, you know, they've got the lines everywhere. They've got all the explanations that they've got the desk with the hand sanitizer and things like that. But when I went in the first time to get my script, you know, like, I was so anxious because, and I've talked about this before, and I don't know if you feel this, you probably don't because you're so used to it now being amongst the public, but when I go into the chemist, say, and I'm standing on the line, I'm still looking around thinking, what if someone comes behind me? Do I turn to my left or to my right? Where do I stand when I'm waiting for something? I don't want to be in people's way. Should I go outside and wait? And all of these, like, different anxieties, like, about... and that goes with me being an anxious person, obviously. But I'm sure people who don't necessarily have anxiety problems would feel the same way. Like, and they're looking, like you say about people being calm, they're looking for that, like, kind of leadership in a way, really.
Oh yeah. It makes it's something else I've had to realize, is that it's easy when you work with the public directly. That anyone who's been in retail or anything that works directly with the public, they know how difficult it is, because you get such a wide variety of people with different beliefs and attitudes and things like that. And obviously we have a tendency to lean towards the negative. So one person will come in and be difficult during the day, and we'll forget all, you know, the 100 people who were fine. We'll just remember them and how horrible they were and all this. But it's kind of to develop the compassion that you need to, particularly in healthcare. You have to see it from their side. You can't be seeing it from your sort of, oh, well, I'm upset about that because they've upset me and gone against my expectations of the situation. But this is your arena. Yeah. So of course you're comfortable here, and the staff are comfortable here. Like, so you almost have that attitude where you can be sort of a little, you know, offended by the patient because it's your arena. You feel comfortable and confident. They've come into your arena. And acted like that. Yeah. So it's sort of understanding where they're coming from. So even when I'm in another arena, so say to go and get my car fixed or whatever, I'm going into someone else's arena. Yeah. I have a completely different attitude, and I might, you know, ignore social distancing and things like that. So it's understanding that I'm just like them and they're just like me. As much as I wish that wasn't the case, it is. We're all working with the same software, and it's kind of that's helped a lot to have much more compassion and sort of. Not get us annoyed when they're difficult. Yeah, that like, it is difficult working with the public, like, you know, in retail or whatever, because I've only done, obviously, retail with the public. But, you know, when I look at, when I go into, like, a pharmacy now, I project my feelings onto the pharmacist. So all I'm thinking is that pharmacist is there for 9 hours, we'll say, and they're just in a mess internally, you know, like, that's all I think. I don't have had days like that. Yeah, well, this is what happens. That's obviously what happens. But I also think, it's just this thing. Like, I don't think in what you just said there, in the sense of, like, this is their kingdom as such, and this is where they're comfortable. So none of those anxieties are there. But for me, that's why maybe I see them as the heroes, and maybe that's why other people see them as heroes, because
they're projecting their own feelings on the pharmacist and the worker or whatever they are. So maybe that's part of the whole the whole idea of heroes on the front line and things like that. You know.
I don't think they think about it. You can't, because you couldn't operate if you were constantly panicking about touching anything or anyone coming in with a virus and stuff like that. It's kind of, you can't control it. So it's one of those things where if I get it, I get it. I have to handle it.
Yeah.
So you just don't. I don't think you can ever. I'm not sure any hero really sees themselves as a hero. It's kind of
if they do, they should.
Yeah. Well, if they did, it's like, oh, you're not a hero. Then
you're
really?
you're just a bit of an egotist.
So
But
I think when everyone's called us heroes, I think that's why we make jokes, because we're not. We're just doing our job. We are doing like everybody else. We just haven't been sent home. So we just carry on as if it was the same before the pandemic and just hope for the best.
Let's do the exciting part of the podcast and do the ad. Fusion Training Centre, Monksland Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing and martial arts, and also CrossFit. I messed up. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Centre Athlone, train like a warrior. Messed up there a little bit. Anyway, for those wondering, for those keeping score, myself and Josh are keeping the required distance between us. I can't touch his face. I want to though, but right. So
just speaking about the fusion thing.
Yeah,
I love how Martin's reacted to this.
Yeah.
Like since the beginning, he was just like, if we lose, we lose, or if the company goes, and he's like, I'm so in admiration of that. And then the effort he's been putting in to keep on top of what's going on,
social
what's
media,
with the phasing and all that sort of stuff, and like the effort to put in the live videos for both jiu-jitsu and the striking and the CrossFit. I love that, like, instead of being like, oh well, we only 4 people, no, forget it. Like he's like, nah, screw it, we'll do it in the car park. We'll get the row machines. I love it, man. It's awesome to see.
And also a big shout out to Heather as well, who's probably the brains behind the operation.
No doubt. All the chafing marks on the necklace.
Yeah, she's definitely getting her stripe.
She's a blue belt now.
Yeah, she should be. I want to talk a bit about, because I love this TV show, and I know Josh does as well. We were chatting about it, and I've been chatting about it to a couple of people, but not really in depth, just on the phone, things like that. What were your initial thoughts? Actually, sorry, I'll just the TV show's called The Last Dance. It's on Netflix now, all 10 episodes. It's about Jordan and the Bulls, and it's brilliant. What were your initial thoughts on the series?
I was just very, very excited about it, because I've studied, because even in the 90s I loved MJ. Like I remember the Nike store opening in Cheshire Oaks, which is like an outlet thing. It's kind of like Kildare Village. It's
right,
one of the same companies or something. And then there was a Nike outlet there every other year. It was like just begging my mum for these shoes and those shoes, like anything that was there. It was always basketball shoes, and like I had like a little Bulls cap and all this.
Oh, did you? Oh, you're a proper Bulls.
Like, yeah, I loved it. Like, so I've sort of read some of the biographies that have been done about him and that sort of stuff, and there's never been like a good documentary on him.
No.
And then it's been so well put together. Really well, like the way they go forward and backwards. Like when during the first episode, I was a bit like, oh, they're just doing the 98 season or the 97, 98. But I love the way they scan back at the right moments, just saying, oh yeah, just to give you a backstory. And I think I just love it. The production's so good. I'm on my second watching of it, and I can see me watching this a lot, like multiple times over.
I said to you last night, I'm going to definitely watch it again. Like I love it.
I'm even wearing my Jordan 5.
Yeah, I was just
favorite Jordan 5s.
He's wearing his Jordan 5s. There's obviously 4 more before that. I don't know if it's like COVID-19 or whether it's just because it was 95. Was it? I don't know. Excuse my ignorance.
No, they were just they were the fifth iteration. They were 19. Right. I think it was 1990. It was 89, 90.
Oh yeah, because they started in the
84 is when they started with the Jordan 1s, and then these were 5s.
I'm going to take a picture of those to put them up.
If you're interested in a bit geeky about it, Tinker Hatfield was the designer of a lot of the shoes.
Oh really? Yeah. That was an interesting bit about the shoes, actually, because I didn't know that Adidas was his preferred choice. Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing that he was only starting out, really, and they had kind of latched onto him.
Well, it was Phil Knight, who's your man. Who's the man at Nike. It was just sort of beginning, because they were just doing track shoes, and that's where Tinker Hatfield comes in, because he was track and field anyway, and that's what he started to design the shoes. I think the first 2 Jordan didn't like.
Right.
But at number 3, that's when he started to like them. But Phil Knight, effectively, it was almost a partnership with Jordan because the company was so small. That was the sort of promise, and that's why Jordan's mum said, take this. Like, the others have been treating you as a commodity, whereas these guys want you as a partner. And I mean, he's the reason. I mean, he's the reason so many people wear trainers. He's like
they had no one else.
The workout world.
Yeah.
It's like the Arnie Schwarzenegger. Like, it's why all the movie stars are so ripped and huge now.
Yeah.
That all started with Arnie, and the reason everyone wears trainers now, and they're not just for sports, is because of the culture. Or the you know, Spike Lee getting involved.
Yeah, well, that's right, Spike Lee. Yeah,
because he brought it into the urban culture, and that's when.
Yeah.
And then eventually it became okay for white dudes to wear them as well.
Is it okay though?
Not really. No. The confident ones though. They can do it. Like if Justin Timberlake can do it, no, I still can't do it.
No, let's not. No, just stop saying people that you're not as cool as. Because say someone that you're. Who wears? Does Spike Lee wear them?
I'm so deluded.
Actually, no. Spike Lee's cooler than you.
Yeah, he's very cool.
He is actually pretty cool.
Loads of money as well. So
he does. But it's interesting because like the fact that they could put everything into Jordan because they were only a track shoe as such. Like the mother for the mother to spot that and say this is the way you should go is such great forward thinking of it. And I love the the part in one of the episodes where he wears the shoes first and he's bleeding and it's his socks. It's like you know, I can't imagine how, because we've all been there with shoes and things that we've worn for the first time. How would you, because like the main part of the show is really Jordan, and obviously there's other people around him, but how would you like characterize him as a person, just from watching the show? Obviously we're all amateurs at looking at these things, but
it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Like, he was just so driven. It was either get on my level or get off.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, you you hear it spoken about, they call him the alpha of the alphas. That's exactly what a leader does. So people say alpha, but really it's leader.
Yeah.
And even though alpha sounds, oh, wouldn't that be so cool? It's not, like, being a leader isn't as cool as it would look like, because he couldn't be weak. He couldn't just quit. He couldn't do like what Scottie Pippen did. A couple of times he let the team down. Jordan never did that. Like during the flu game, he steps up.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what a leader has to do. He has to sacrifice so much more, but that's why people will trust him to lead, because they know he's always going to give more. And that means as long as the leader looks after the group will look after the leader. Yeah. And that's often what happens in a lot of jobs is the person in charge isn't a true leader. And people start to resent them because they're giving as much as they can to the job or to the work, and then the person in charge isn't doing the same, or they don't feel the person in charge would do the same. And that's really what leadership ultimately comes down to. Like, they eat last, that sort of thing. And he was just the personification of a leader. And that was only more evident through his career as he started to understand with Phil Jackson. Oh, you have to play as a team now, because it's not enough just for you to. Because if they double, triple team you, that's it. Like, they'll shut you down. You just, through physics, if anything.
You can't.
Else. You physically can't.
So
that's when the triangle system came in, and you could pass it out, and that's when he really started to understand the power of team. But that's just more evidence of him being a leader. So the competitiveness was always there. The desire to dominate was always there. But then you combine that with a strong team and him pushing them to be better, to reach their own potential. Because it's the difference between someone who's just brilliant at something, or good at something, let's say, and the difference between a leader who's good at something is the leader will self-motivate. And that is incredibly difficult to self-motivate. But I think it can become a habit. Whereas, like, you see it when he left, like Scottie Pippen, very nice approach, probably a nice boss, that sort of thing, and that's great for a year or so. But then it's kind of, you're not being pushed the same way. Whereas Jordan would fire them up, and it was just a true leader, in all senses.
I did like, I love obviously an amazing player, amazing leader and stuff. I'm not sure his approach towards people helped everyone, because I think he made some players better players, but there's some players that definitely fell by the wayside because of how he was towards them. If he didn't see them as good as him, or not even as good as him, but worth being on the same court as him, he brushed him aside. There's the kind of there was an episode where I would show him with the player Scott Burrell, who was only there for a year, and Jordan was just at him all the time.
Is this when he's on the plane? He's just ribbing him.
Yeah, he was just at him on the court, and he was just. It seemed it was more towards bullying, I thought, than just having a bit of crack. Because me and you slag each other all the time, but we don't bully each other.
No.
But I did think Jordan he had a tendency to be a bit of a bully at times.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it was good that it showed that sign, obviously, because you don't want it to be just isn't he, the greatest of all time. I don't think he would have got away with it now. I don't think LeBron could do it now.
No, I mean, I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a bit of an expert in the Premier League, sort of, and the psychology of it and all that. And he was saying that there's such a big difference now between what you used to be able to do. So people like Jose Mourinho, who just kick off on Ronaldo and say, I bet you can't, or you can't do this. And that would fire them up. Whereas now it's a different generation, because that wasn't called bullying in the 90s. That was just what an alpha does. That was dominance, because it just depends what vantage point you're coming from. Because if you want to call it bullying, it can be called bullying. Or if you want to call it championship, expectations, that's exactly what it is. Because it is a case of, I want to win at all costs, short of cheating.
Yeah.
So you either have to get on my level, or you're in the B team.
Yeah.
Which is ruthless, and it is unfair, but it's just kind of unfair is the wrong way of looking at it. It is unfair.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that it can't all be fair, and I think that is probably the trying to focus on whether something's fair or not. I think can be the biggest obstacle to living a happy life and the life that you want to lead, because shouting about it being unfair it's not going to change the fact. It's just the fact that it's unfair, and it was
like I can get I swing it around the other way. For example,
let's have an argument there.
Yeah, let's
get
I'm
into
mad to have
let's
an
get
argument.
into it.
I have an itchy nose and everything. I don't. Right, Steve Kerr is a great example of the opposite. Right, so Jordan, there's a scene in the documentary, if you haven't seen it, where there's 25 seconds on the clock. Jordan is always the one who's expected to take the last shot. It was against the Utah Jazz, wasn't it? Against the Jazz, yeah. And
he did it so many times.
Yeah, yeah. And then he turns onto the you see it. He turns onto the bench to Kerr, and he says, "You take the shot." Now, Steve Kerr is being interviewed at that point in the documentary, and he says like it was almost like it was almost affirmation of what Jordan. It was almost affirmation that he was good enough to play on the court with Jordan, because Jordan said, well, I'm going to allow you to take this kind of clutch shot. And Kerr hit the shot. The Bulls went on to win the championship. And I can't imagine how good Steve Kerr felt after that, But he was Kerr was a very good player. But it's just, again, it's the size of Jordan just kind of swamping the rest of them. And you just forget, right? So you mentioned Scottie Pippen. I love Scottie Pippen. I think he's such a nice guy. He comes across such a nice guy,
and his voice, he's so calm.
He is, yeah. But I heard this morning that he's not very happy about the documentary, because it showed a couple of times when he did quit. There was
let them down. Yeah, I did wonder that, because it's there's 2 or 3 when you just think, when he. But I mean, it's unfortunate. But you look at the last game. Yeah, when he carried on playing with effectively broken back. Yeah, pretty much. Every time he landed, twinge. But yeah, I can understand why he might be a bit like, hang on, it didn't show all my good points. Enough of the good points, just to
But talk about a player who, I know what you're saying. He wasn't the leader that Jordan was, but he was the second man on the team, and he was better than most first men on other teams.
I mean, it's kind of it's a fantastic case study of team psychology, which you might think, oh well, I don't play sports, so it doesn't matter. It's not the case, because wherever you work, there's a team. We're always working in teams, and if you can understand team psychology, you can play a really important role in that team if you understand what the role is. So Scotty knew he wasn't number 1. And he accepted that. Yeah. Which he, some people might think, well, that's not fair. I want to be number 1. But he knew he was number 2, so he was the best number 2. Yeah. And that would have been better than most people's number 1s. And then Rodman, he knew he wasn't.
I just want to talk about Rodman.
He wasn't a shooter. But his understanding of defense and things like that, he knew what his role was. Yeah. Steve Kerr, they all knew what their roles were, and that's why they were such a formidable team, because they understood to on some level team psychology and how it actually works.
It's like, you know, on the basketball court, because if you want to take football for example, obviously the pitch is so big, there's 11 players. Obviously it's a whole different situation. But if you take Dennis Rodman on a basketball court with 5v5, like, and you stick him under the rebound, the way he catches rebounds, he will kung fu kick in the air if anybody comes near him. Yeah. He's the enigma in that documentary. I wanted more of him in the documentary. I couldn't understand why he wasn't in there, because it was a Jordan.
I don't think he opens up that much.
No, but you know what he said about Scottie Pippen? When Scottie Pippen said he was unhappy with the documentary, he just said, I wish he learned how to just not give a shit like me. Yeah. And
it's powerful.
Yeah, and that's because he was always like that, though. I mean, you know that trip he went to Vegas, like,
it's funny.
Like Phil Jackson.
I love the way they said, if he goes, we ain't seeing him in 2 days. So he's not coming back.
He's not coming. And Phil Jackson was like, no, he will.
And then I love the way they did the little animation when it goes past the foot, and it's like, what is it? It was a 70 something. It did,
yeah. He ran it a bit, but
even Carmen Electra was the porn star was uncomfortable.
She was like, this is a bit, you know. But I find him fascinating. My younger brother Simon was a Bulls fan back then. I was actually a Seattle Supersonics fan back then. But so he loves.
Yeah, we can't all be winners, so that's fine.
I was a big fan when they got to the final, and I think the Bulls went 3-0 up or something, and then went 3-2.
They got a bit complacent.
Well, they had Kemp and Payton, and that's why I liked them. But Simon was a big Bulls fan, and obviously, you know, Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. But there's something I remember so clearly about him just being a fan of Rodman. I might have got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was a big fan of Rodman. But he was, you know, he'd just turn up like in drag, and he'd just do what he wanted. And but then I watched. I was speaking to you last night about this is why I wrote down the 3 players. I watched their induction speeches into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Jordan's is very. You said uncomfortable, and that's a really good. He seems to remember every slight that was put on him, and he calls so many people out, and it is kind of uncomfortable. And you kind of want to watch. You want to look away, but you just keep watching to see who he's gonna.
It was quite funny when they panned out to some of the people in the crowd looking at it, like
Isaiah Thomas.
Oh wow,
Isaiah Thomas was there. Fair play to him for going, because they hate each other.
It like, just on a quick side note, there was I talked about Ryan Holiday in his book Stillness is the Key, which is his latest one on Stoicism. He does actually do a little breakdown.
Oh, I pronounced that wrong the last episode, everybody.
What?
It's been pointed out to me several times.
What?
Say it again.
Stoicism? Oh, you say Stoicism. Yeah. Well, that's all right.
I'll win.
And he talks about the fact that Jordan clearly hasn't found that stillness.
Right,
because even at that stage, like, what more accolades do you want? To find that calm and stillness and self-acceptance. There's still that drive of, nah, you're not gonna beat me. You can even, I mean, if you really saw the dark sides of how he put this documentary together, because it was his footage, he had the footage. If you can imagine the amount of money he's getting paid for it, and he made sure he was made out to be the hero and all stuff like that. Like, it's all very cleverly done.
It is,
and I just, it was just a side note to Stoicism.
No,
it kind of linked back, because it's an interesting piece that Ryan Holiday's written about that speech.
But do you find it? What would you say about Rodman then in the attitude that he has towards things then?
I think, they talk about the Madonna thing. Like, you can obviously see that to survive in the celebrity world and under that level of scrutiny, because I mean, I was having to think about this the other day. Like, why do people respond so badly when celebrities fall off, or when sportsmen fall off, or let's say heroes fall off? So you Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods, even Michael Jordan to a degree with his gambling and things like that. And it was kind of, I kept thinking about it, and obviously I've studied enough of it to sort of have a stupid, wild amateur guess.
That's good.
But they're archetypes.
Yeah.
Is the celebrity, it doesn't matter who the celebrity is. It's whatever archetype appeals to that group of people. So, I mean, you asked my mum about Michael Jordan. She doesn't give a crap about Michael Jordan, but it doesn't match her thing. But maybe Michelle Obama is her archetype, or Oprah Winfrey, whoever, they're her archetypes. Whereas for a lot of the majority of men, the athlete is their hero or their archetype. And when they show their human side, because an archetype is perfection in our minds. So when that person is human, we don't have a reference point for that. When our brains aren't very good at understanding. Actually, there's, there isn't just black and white. We'd love it to be simplistic. So we'd love Jordan to just be all hero, all sunshine, all light. But if he's going to win something, There's so much darkness in there to want to dominate and want to compete at the best on the planet kind of level. When we see that darkness somewhere else, like gambling or drinking or drugs or women or, you know, cheating, whatever it might be, everyone's up in arms. And they take their anger out on that person, not on the disappointment of, oh, they're not a hero.
Yeah.
They're not the hero. And then all your certainty about who you want to be and who you should be, using their example, is shattered.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, that's very discerning. So you have to go the long way around and understand that the darkness in these people is what makes them complete. So I actually prefer these athletes when they're shown to have a dark side.
Like Rodman, like
well, all of them. Because
yeah.
to have that competitive, because the whole hero's journey is going into the darkness, developing your own darkness, and then coming back up and having that darkness to call upon, being able to control it. So it's why, you know, you get a hothead. It's all very well being like that when you need to be.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they do that when they shouldn't be, because they haven't the control. Whereas a hero has the control of that darkness, but they don't lack the darkness. And it's assimilating that, which is a Carl Jung idea, is assimilating that darkness. And that's what these archetypes are. And to keep admiring them, you have to come to terms that they have a dark side, which means you have a dark side.
Yeah.
And so I admire their completeness a lot more than before when they were squeaky clean.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and I love the redemption. I love when they fall and come back. Like, and I think everybody loves a redemption story.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Because you get all the heat. And I think Rodman is the eclectic archetype, almost the true cynic, with the cynicism that Stoicism grew out of. It's true cynicism, which was, I don't care. It's literally just me.
Yeah.
I don't care about society, whereas Stoicism understood you had to operate in society.
Yeah.
And that was the big difference between the two. Whereas the Stoicisms were just, the cynics were just like, yeah, whatever. Like, literally, I couldn't care less. And that's where I think Rodman went with it. And Madonna showed him that, because she'd obviously realized that.
Yeah.
She became a lot more successful probably when she accepted all her parts, all the darkness, and she was a complete human being, because people can seemingly pick up on it. They pick up on a complete person, and they're almost drawn to it. And I think that obviously had a big impact on Rodman, and he stopped trying to be someone he wasn't, and he just accepted that, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like a penny dropped, and he just stopped caring as much what people think. And a big part of that is deciding who's in your troop, like who's in my circle. As long as they're happy and comfortable, what does anyone else?
Yeah,
matter,
it's
really?
interesting because
they don't have the context that I do. They might judge me, but they don't have any context on me as a person. They don't know anywhere near. They don't know my good parts. They don't know all my bad parts. So really, it's just a very limited view on an interpretation of an action that you've taken, and then they sum you up as a person again, because we love.
Yeah,
we love black and white. We love simple ideas.
Put them in a box.
Yeah, it makes sense, because complicated is too uncomfortable, which is why the hero's either all good or all bad.
Yeah.
So when they fall off, it's like, oh well, Tiger Woods is just a bad person all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's just acted badly.
Yeah.
The same way we all do, and it's very jarring for people, because it goes against this simplicity idea.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about the Rodman thing, because he just was always out there, and it wasn't like he didn't just turn one day. He was always the bad boy when he was at the Pistons and then the Bulls. And then I think he gives the most interesting speech of the three main players when they do get inducted. Like Pippen's he thanks everybody, he's very polite. Michael Jordan's his sponsor there beside him, and he has his little moment or whatever. He kind of chokes up a bit at the end, but Rodman can hardly stop himself from crying. Yeah. And he's up there, and he's up there. Phil Jackson is his sponsor. He's up there, he's speaking, he says, his mother's sitting there, and he goes, we never got along, we still don't get along, like, you know, but I'm trying my best. He goes, I'm not a good dad to my kids, but I want to be. He says, like, I've got four fathers, and he names the four coaches he had throughout his career, or, you know, not all of them obviously, but the four main players. And then that's when I look to somebody who is just, like, I look to Phil Jackson as this absolute, like, one of the best coaches of all time, if not the best of any sport.
No, yeah,
not just basketball.
Charles Barkley says, like, gives Jordan some crap every now and then, and says, like, I'd have been the best player if I had the best team and the best coach ever.
Yeah,
You know, I just
Barkley's so funny though. He's deadly. That to me, when I listen to him speak, he's so relaxing. He's got this spiritual kind of aspect to us. I don't know if he's religious as such, but he's spiritual. And he talk about the tribal background he has, isn't he?
the Red Indian,
Yeah, that's right. And he performed a couple of rituals at the, I can't remember. There was one at the very end, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. And he's just a reassuring presence. And I'll never understand why the general manager wanted to get rid of him when he would have stayed. Because
there's a lot of ego involved.
There's a lot of ego, but he went on to
Jerry
win.
Krause is just
It's a very strange character.
You can see. I mean, his dark side is too obvious. So
Yeah.
People won't even highlight the fact that he made the franchise or created the franchise through very intelligent moves, because there's something he's not comfortable in himself. He gives into his dark side way too much. His dark side's obviously in control.
Yeah.
So he, instead of being supporting the team and then quietly saying to Phil, this is your last year, he made it public. It's such a gesture of, I mean, and they talk about the psychology that he wanted the credit more than Jordan and Jackson and things like that. He wanted much more of the credit, because like us all, he just wants to be accepted, and trying to force the acceptance the way he did just did the opposite, and it made him more unpopular. And I mean, even Scottie Pippen was horrible to him, and he's obviously a nice guy, but brings out the darkness even in Scottie Pippen. And it's kind of, that's an unfortunate side of a villain. There was some kind of villainy about him, but you can see it. I think we pick up on villains, on natural villains, whereas Michael, we knew he had a dark side, but he's still the hero.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't, a lot of the time, don't. It's a very simplistic view of a hero, but the hero, I mean, probably the best way I've had it described or heard it described is that he knows his sword is sheathed. So he has a sword and it's sharp, but it's sheathed.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to a villain, it's not sheathed. It's just all bitterness, and when you realize life is difficult, you either go down the bitter road, or you decide, actually, it isn't as amazing as I thought it was. It isn't black and white, but you know what? I'm still gonna do what I'm supposed to do, and that's really stoicism. There's another part of stoicism that talks about control and just focusing on your actions. Don't worry about other people's actions. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, it's good.
But it's kind of it's the hero and villain. That's why we love sports in general.
I just find it crazy that a man with Phil Jackson there ready to sign on if he wanted, that Jordan would have stayed, then possibly Pippen might have still gone. I don't know about Pippen because he was not too happy.
At least pay him
a bit more. 122nd highest paid in the league.
I think it was.
Was it that?
Stupid like that, yeah.
And then you don't know about Rodman because he did his own thing, but
he seems like the kind of guy didn't need money as long as you gave him
no,
some
he
booze.
was bring him to Vegas for a while.
Give him some booze and some leopard skin.
He's happy, but just to dismantle it almost because you could.
Yeah, just because it was literally just cause.
Yeah, and
you're like, but they're not losing yet. The thing is, you wonder if they played on another year, they would have been the Pistons, or the Celtics. They would have been that team for the next team coming up.
Yeah,
because obviously there's a natural order of things, and you wonder if they would have got 7, or whether it would have been the next, whoever was next. I suppose it was the Lakers again, was it?
The Lakers were coming through with Shaq, and who managed them though? Phil Jackson, who won 5 championships with them. So
exceptional. I mean, he obviously understood psychology.
Oh yeah,
to quite a big extent.
Have you read his book actually? Because
no, but his wife was a psychologist, wasn't she?
Oh, was she?
She was a counselor, a grief counselor. So she obviously understood psychology, and he had the wherewithal to understand that he could apply that to the team, because I've not read his book, but I've read or a few of the Jordan bio, and it does touch on Phil Jackson and where he got his ideas from, and
it's meant to be unbelievable. I heard. I think
is it the Maverick one, or is it the actual biography one? You mean?
No, the Maverick one was written in 2003 or something like that. I remember Alex Ferguson talking about it at one point, telling his players that they should read it and stuff. So obviously another great coach in sport, kind of referring to it. But I just find him such a soothing, calming guy. I'm sure he could lose it. Like, he's competitive.
He was probably into
Yeah.
Jordan's yang,
Yeah.
because they were both leaders.
Yeah.
And you have to have that balance. And Scotty was the balance as well,
Yeah.
because a lot of them were much more gentle than Jordan,
Yeah.
and that probably balanced his just raw desire.
Yeah.
Because I mean that was almost what set him apart. I mean, obviously his talent was there, but the hard work, as well as the talent, as well as the unbelievable drive that no one else really had that level, that was really what separated him. Was just
Yeah.
that was almost his talent, was that he wanted it so much more.
Yeah, it's listen, if anybody hasn't seen it, you don't have to like basketball to like it. It's a character study as much as anything else, and it's a lot of characters being studied. It's so good. Some of the basketball highlights are unbelievable as well, like just in the drama of it all. I would also refer, because when I was watching this, I thought of OJ Made in America. Have you seen that? It's like a 10-parter as well.
Is that the one with Gooden Jr. plays?
No, this is
OJ?
this is documentary.
I think I've seen it.
ESPN
I've
did
watched probably way too much on OJ.
Yeah, this won the Oscar, right, and for best documentary. Now they've changed the rules since, because this was made by ESPN. It was a 10-parter. It shouldn't have been winning.
Yeah, I did watch that. Yeah,
I've watched it twice. It's another one that just reminds me, because it's a bit more than the Jordan The Last Dance one, because it's
what was in that suit bag, you know.
Oh yeah,
the Louis Vuitton suit bag.
He was in
What was in it, man?
How did he get
was
it?
in it?
I don't know.
I think it was it his lawyer that walked off with it? Oh no, wasn't it one of the Kardashian?
Oh, was it?
Wasn't it your man who someone took it?
Wasn't he his lawyer?
Someone handed it. Yeah, someone just handed it off to him. But I don't think he was. I don't think he was like. He wasn't obviously a murder trial lawyer.
Yeah.
He was just like kind of a.
Will we get a few conspiracy theories going while we're here?
What was?
No,
in there?
no.
I mean,
not.
well, all the weapons are in there.
No,
obviously.
I can give it out about conspiracy theories all the time. I can't start any. But listen, yeah, check that out, because it's more than just about OJ and the trial. It's about where he came from, but it's hugely about race relations in America and what was going on at the time, and why
that was a huge influence.
Yeah, yeah, and why
riots and things like
that's
that.
it. Like, why the African American people wanted him to be set free. It wasn't so much that they really believed that he was, it was the fact that Rodney King was after being dragged out of a truck, and the LA riots, and all that. It's brilliant. I won't go on too much about it.
And it was in LA, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
it was kind of it's a very difficult.
Oh, it was a dark time. Like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm going to get a drink of water and then we'll start up again. So, yeah, a few more questions I have for Joshua here. Have you learned anything about yourself during lockdown?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not.
Strap yourselves in.
Not. I don't know really. Much more grateful than I was. I must admit.
Yeah.
Like, just being able to work, like, that's been a huge thing. But I've learned that I have. But I think this is just through continual learning. I've had a few breakthroughs, just realizing, because I stopped getting up at like 6 in the morning, and then I didn't know why. I just wasn't happy in general. I didn't understand it, and I just suddenly I had a sort of a breaking point when I was just tired of feeling sort of weak and self-pity and all that sort of stuff, and I just went for like a 2-hour run, and just sort of got in a dark place. The sort of driven place.
Yeah.
And then since then, because that was a couple of months ago, since then I've just sort of been non-stop, and it's just waking up at 6, studying whatever I need to study, some of different topics that I'll try and study each morning. And then through that, I've had a few breakthroughs, just because I've gone at it with such vigour now. And I've just been reminded of, or it's sort of the pennies dropped, of just how much more in control of our emotions than we think we are, because we're kind of, I was talking on last time about the triune brain theory with the sort of the mammal chimp brain or monkey mind or whatever, and the human brain, and it's kind of, we almost feel like we have to go with however our emotions feel, and if you don't, it's suppressing them and this sort of stuff. And I think I don't think that's the case. There obviously is things that are suppressed, and that's something to consider, but just because we're used to feeling something when an event happens or someone does something, we can change that. Not that it's easy. I think it's like training physically. You don't get up and expect to be able to, like, you don't get up, start jiu-jitsu and think you can just roll the black belt and win.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that black belt's been doing that for 10 years. And I genuinely believe you can do the same with the mind. but we're such at the early stages of it that we're still learning it. And I've sort of understood how much more in control of my mind than I am. And a lot of it is resisting the old patterns as opposed to forcing the new ones. Obviously, you don't have to force the new ones because they're there, because that's where you want to be. That's how you want to feel. That's the state you want to be in. You don't have to, you resist. So initially the effort, it's kind of like, again, another parallel with jiu-jitsu. You're resisting quitting. You're not getting the moves right. You're resisting quitting. And eventually the moves will start to get right. And it's the same when, however you want to be feeling, you can. But it sounds ridiculous. Like, I kept thinking, how the hell can I tell someone else this and convince them that it's not just BS? Because I was told this 4 years ago. I was taught the techniques. And I ignored them. And almost like with disdain of like, oh no, that's just that's just crap. You know.
Hey,
sorry, man, I've ruined it. You have to put
beep him, John. Beep that.
Explicit. Parental advisory. Yeah, I just thought that was crap, and it was just I'd ignored it. And then for some reason, over the last couple of months, I re-watched it, and it wasn't until I applied it to an old pattern, because I was always looking to what I wanted to feel and where I wanted to be. It pointed out like, oh, well, this is where you've been going, and this is what you do to get into that state, and this is what you say to yourself, and this is, you know, the physiology you have and all that sort of stuff. And that's when the penny dropped. I was like, oh my, that's what I have been doing. I would go down, and it's almost a natural instinct in our culture, because of not bad parenting, but when you're a kid, if you go down self-pity and you complain about something and get upset about something, your parents would fix it because they just want you to be happy. They'll just come and fix it. And then we carry that same attitude with us into adulthood, and we go down self-pity because it used to serve us. But when there's a realization that the world isn't against you, it's not that well organized, it's not against you, and bluntly, nobody cares. They not only care about themselves, but their main focus isn't you. It's themselves and their life and people who matter to them. Yeah. So they almost don't notice what you think they're noticing or what you're getting worried about. They don't necessarily see it. And if they do it, it's just all right, okay. And then they'll carry on. But our culture, it kind of, not that it's you don't blame the culture, but because you have the control, it's not the culture. But in work, let's say, or with friends, they'll often go down self-pity and they'll start complaining. I mean, I understand that much more now, why people don't watch the news, because it's effectively a negative friend constantly complaining and constantly pointing out things that are going wrong. And if you had a friend like that, you'd get rid of them. And the news is the same thing. It's almost addictive. It's just outrage porn. Yeah. It's just kind of like, oh my God, look what this person's done. And it's just a gossiping, annoying friend who just brings you down and changes your state and gets you worrying about things. But if you're used to visiting that emotion, because I mean, the concept boils down to, do we feel emotions or do we go to emotions? Like, is that where we, are we so used to visiting that emotion that's where we're comfortable? That's where we actually enjoy feeling like that, even though you'd wonder logically, why the hell would we feel good about that? Yeah. But it meets a lot of our needs, so we'll stay in that sad place. And when you realize how damaging that is to yourself, to people around you, particularly when you have a family and kids, and I mean, a big part for me was, well, what do I want Oscar to be? And it's kind of like, what does my mood do to him? And the same to my wife. Like, it's, you can't. And
me, of course.
Oh, and you, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, a little bit. Because it's sort of, if I want to lead my family, which I do, which is why you'd look at Jordan so inspirationally. If I want to lead, I have to have the same attributes. And just because theirs is the world stage and my life is small and little and humble, that's fine. If that's the cards that are dealt to me, that's fine. I'm going to make the most of my small, humble life then. I'm still going to lead and use the same techniques that he does. Not that I'm berating Marta when she doesn't score, but it's the kind of, it's leading. So I have to have the right mindset. I have to be self-motivated. So I have to find things that are motivating me, not demotivating me, like the news or, a bad work environment where everyone's complaining. Because as much as you want to resist that, because we're so sociable, you can't resist it after a while. So say if I'm in a pharmacy where the staff aren't happy, that's 9 hours of negativity. So I need to start every single day with a dose of what I want to be, and the positivity, and things like that documentary show me, oh, that's another option.
Yeah.
I don't have to complain and have self-pity. That's an option as well, is to go out and try and crush it. And yeah.
But your perspective then on your family is ever evolving in kind of a situation.
Yeah. I think it always will as well, because there's also the family psychology of different personalities. So whatever personality Oscar has, that's his personality. So my next child, if I have one, they'll have to take a different role.
Yeah.
So I have to understand that as a parent, that say Oscar's the outgoing loud one, maybe my other child won't be.
Yeah.
But I have to still have an admiration and respect for their type of personality, because we all like the extrovert, and like you've said before, we all want to be Tony Stark and Iron Man, but some of us, everyone's got a role to play, which again comes back to the Jordan thing. We all want to be Michael Jordan, but he wouldn't have done it without Pippen and Jackson and all these different archetypes. So again, that's another thing I have to think about and consider is, not saying that, not showing a preference to how Oscar is over how maybe my other daughter or son will be quite quiet, and having an admiration for that and helping them harness the power of that, because there's power in both.
There has to be, and you have to kind of help them grow in that way, because that's what you can't force the extrovert or the introvert from each.
That's another thing I'm really aware of, is not the things that maybe I necessarily didn't have. It's not material things necessarily, but it's kind of like, well, I would have liked this or I would have liked that. They might not like that, because I kept saying to them, all right, I want to get them into the crashes and the play groups and all this sort of stuff, get them socialised and get them really good at that, because I felt that's where I was lacking. So it was like, I want to get them really into that. And then it sort of dawned on me, because even though I'd been listening to don't force things on them, I did inadvertently thought, oh, well, I need to force that on them. But then it was last couple of weeks, I thought, oh, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm assuming that the reason I wasn't as good socially was because of some other force. It wasn't because maybe I just wasn't that interested in it. Maybe I wasn't on the same wavelength as other people and these sorts of things. So I'm excited to see what he has an interest to, and my job is to expose him to as many things as possible, and then try and guide as best I can through it.
I think if anyone can hear any background noise, that's just the wind on the roof. It's quite a windy day out there. It's probably quite soothing on the lobes. A little bit about your anxieties. What have they been like? Because you've got worries and anxieties like everybody else, but I think your anxieties are closer to the surface, maybe. Probably not over the surface like mine, but just
they don't bubble over.
They don't bubble over, but they're there.
I think a lot of mine were because of the self-pity.
Okay.
And I'd kept going to those emotions of it was self-pity and not necessarily victimhood, but I certainly think that's a huge part of our culture at the moment is I'm a victim, and it's kind of like, we're all victims. Just pick your poison. It kind of gives us comfort. It's like, oh, because of this I don't have to try, or because of this I don't really have to do anything. It's just I can keep banging the drum and try and change the world as opposed to work with the world. So I think my anxieties they've almost disappeared because of these techniques over the last couple of months, because I was the feel of control changed. Again, I have to say part of it's stoicism, part of it's all the things I've studied, but it's understanding that the control I have is my beliefs, my thoughts, my views, my attitudes, and it's not other people's thoughts, views, beliefs, and attitudes. And I can influence my circle of people, but that's about it. What I can actually control and is within my ability is how I respond to things. And if I can see people who respond to the same events in a very different way, my goal isn't to have that response necessarily. My goal is to find out what that person believes and what views they have, so my actions are just automatic. Because probably the simplest way to look at it is getting up at 6. I don't get up at 6 because it sounds cool, or because I know that's what other celebrities do. And all
I
that
want to
sort
be
of
Mark Wahlberg. That's why I
just
get
get up before and play golf for some reason.
Play golf
It's
in
like
the dark.
good use of the time. But it's because
14
I know,
showers a day. Yes.
I know getting up at 6 and putting that work in.
Yeah.
I've convinced myself if I don't do that, I won't be happy. So when the alarm goes off and I'm tired, an extra bit of sleep isn't going to have the same effect as getting that work in the morning. And it's also the only time I can get it in, because if, Oscar wakes up at 8, that's my couple of hours to get my stuff together, fill my tank up. So when I'm playing with Oscar, I'm not thinking, I want to be doing this. When am I going to get to do that? Blah, blah, blah. My focus is on him and his development. So then I can enjoy the time. And like when I'm outside, I'm not thinking in my own head. I'm thinking, what does he want to do? Let him lead and let him walk around and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
improved a lot then.
Yeah, hugely. They've almost disappeared. And I honestly wish I could just say a couple of things and everyone will go, oh, I'll start doing that. Great.
Yeah.
But it's just through all the studying I've done over the last 15 years of this stuff, it just takes time for you to be convinced of things. And I think the two ways to take something from intellectually knowing and understand, which is that, whatever, I know that, to the genuinely feeling it. And the only way I can try to describe this concept is I'll suddenly just start doing something, and it's not forced. I don't have to try it.
Yeah.
And I almost lose grip of it. So it feels like, where's your anxiety gone? I don't know. And I couldn't even tell. Now I can't tell you. I can try and guess what I intellectually know, but it's gone. It's almost like it's just gone into the subconscious, and it's kind of like, Jesus, I've lost. Like if someone asks, why do you still exercise? No idea. I've been doing it so long now. I can try and guess. I like this, I like this, I like that, but I don't honestly know.
Yeah.
But because it just happens now, it's almost gone, and I've lost grip of it in my intellect, and my intellect tries to guess and predict what's causing it, but it's just gone now. And I feel like that's happened over the last couple of months. It's like, how can I be less anxious? I could use a few words or a few concepts for you, but I know I've got it now because I've lost grip of it. It's sort of just gone now, and I just do it now. I suppose that's what habit is, really. You don't think about it. Yeah. You lose grip of why you're doing it and what you're doing when you first start doing it. I mean, again, it's another parallel to jiu-jitsu. Like, it's when you first start, you're thinking, right, okay, I need to put my leg there, try and grab this, move them off balance here. Yeah. Whereas now, say if we're rolling, I did like a scissor sweep or whatever, obviously before all this began, but I would do a scissor sweep. And I've not actively learned scissor sweeps. Like, I've not gone, I need to put my leg there. Yeah. I've just gone, right. And it's just happened. But I've lost grip of it. It's like, how did you do that? Well, I just did a scissor sweep. Like, I just had to leverage and wait, I guess. Yeah. But intellectually, I can't describe it the same way. You sort of lose grip of it. It just becomes innate. Yeah. And that's kind of what's happened. And I really wish I could help. But the thing is, with these problems that people have, we all have the same problems. It's all the same software. It's all the same culture. We all have the same challenges. If it was straightforward and simple, we'd already have the problem solved. Yeah. Whereas it's not straightforward and simple. It's not just an hour's chat. It's months of chatting and years of chatting. The most that people can do is speed up the process. And that's where I love books and things like that, and studying people like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, because you get a life's experience in however long it takes you to study them and get as much from their experience as possible. And you can speed up that process. So, I mean, that's the real.
Yeah, you applied yourself to things very, you're very committed. I'm not saying that other people aren't committed, but you will read up and study and things like that, where others, right? So we'll put it in this way, right? Jiu-jitsu, you study it and you watch you watch hours and hours of stuff.
John
no, I'm not going to talk about him
and how tedious.
No, but it would. See, that's the thing. Like, I can't do that, right? Because I don't love it as much. Now, this is what I want to ask you about. I have it written down here. Like, how much, right? So you I'm sure you miss jiu-jitsu just as much as I miss jiu-jitsu. But how much percentage-wise is it for you, the training and then the camaraderie. To me, the camaraderie is higher than the training. It's like 65-35 split probably. Whereas I like to go in and like have a chat and have a bit of crack with yourself and John and everybody in there. Just have a bit of crack and then do the rolling. And I love that as well.
Yeah.
But how much percentage wise? I know this is kind of, you have to think off the top of your head. And I had a day to think about what it was. But what would you say?
I think a percentage will take a minute, so I'm going to talk.
Talk for 4 seconds. And
then it'll pop out. But I certainly it wasn't the reason I started is because I've always liked martial arts. I've always wanted to do it, and obviously everyone knows jiu-jitsu is just, you know, because the UFC did the tests.
Yeah,
like they found out what the martial arts were, and I'd always found striking martial arts a bit. Unless you're sparring, it's really kind of a waste of time. So because it's sort of we can all hit a pad, we can all hit a bag, and that's wonderful. But with jiu-jitsu, it's kind of, you get found out very quickly every single session if you roll, and that's as brutal as it gets. And I started because I knew I'd only moved over and I have to get into the community. Yeah. And I wasn't going to join any societies, and I'm not really big into the pub and that sort of stuff. So I thought, well, where am I going to go? So I Googled it, found Fusion, thought Martin was great, and just
then you got to know him. Sorry, Martin.
Too easy. I set that up.
It's sly one as well, wasn't it? From the back of the class, you know.
Yeah. So I can't. It depends. Each time it's different. I would say the percentage. It's not just a solid percentage. It's kind of, sometimes I go just to see you, just to see John and Martin and Ryan and all these people, just to see them. But other times it's kind of, I want to go in and I want to try this out because I was watching a video at lunchtime and I saw this and I want to try it and see if I can actually make it happen and see where the holes are. So it varies.
I think that helps though, because of the fact that you watch something, you want to do it. I don't watch anything. No. So I don't want to do anything when I go in.
But I kind of, I like that I can show you it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the best ways to learn it. And it's kind of, that's how we both grow together. So, I mean, part of why I watch it is that I can teach you it. Because I know you're not going to watch it. So, because it does take, it's definitely, you have to have a taste for it to be able to read books on it and study it. And
because you yourself and Martin will watch these big long, you know, John will brush over some stuff and he'll take what he likes or whatever. But I just can't, because when I hear you and Martin talk about it, like, I never think to myself, that sounds great. Like, I understand, like,
that sounds great,
you know, but you know, like, because you show me the stuff, Martin shows me the stuff, John shows me the stuff. I'm fine with that. Like,
yeah. Well, there's personality variations,
it is,
without doubt. I mean, that's what you're really highlighting, the personality differences, because obviously Martin and myself, we have dark sides, and our dark sides are competitive and they want to win. Yeah. So that must be part of our motivation, to sit there and watch it and think, oh, I'm not going to let them beat me. That, you know, I've got to do this. Like a small taste of what Jordan was like. So I think, that's probably why I find it easier. But I didn't at the beginning. It was just like starting jiu-jitsu. Like, for a year and a half, I didn't like it. Yeah. I had anxiety before I went in. It was okay rolling. Yeah. Or the class was okay, but then I was worried about rolling, and then so it took me a good while to genuinely start enjoying it. So now I enjoy it. It's a very different case, but it's just getting through those first like year and a half.
But do you think it's because you're you're blue belt now? You're very skilled at it. You can smash all the white belts, we'll say, right? Do you think that's what makes it more enjoyable? Is that you can roll with people now?
There's less uncertainty now.
Yeah, and your competitive edge is not as, it's not always on. It doesn't always need to be on display. Cause sometimes if you go against a new white belt, and I'm not having digs. This is just the way it works in jiu-jitsu. You know, it's a jungle out there. No, but you know, it is just that, and I think and you have accepted the fact, and I think it just takes a little while. I've obviously accepted the fact that some people are just way better than you. It's not. It's just practice. It's training. It's
the focus has to be on you. Being better, because it's, and everyone else is just a test. It's just that's what that is. Because it's, I mean, what I think is really nice about the sport is like a white belt's not gonna tap a black belt.
Yeah.
Whereas there might be a lucky punch or something like that with a striking. There might be, very unlikely, but in jiu-jitsu that's not happening, and nor should it, because the black belt's put in close to probably a decade of work.
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty crap sport if you could turn up day one, like every white belt wants to, turn up day one and just tap a black belt easy, or feel like they're controlling them. But really, because they have such little understanding of the sport, it's kind of, they're just bear hugging the black belt, and the black belt's not doing anything, and they have so little understanding. They don't realize the black belt knew they couldn't submit them.
Yeah,
so just waited until they let go of the bear.
That's the thing. It's like, we'll use David as an excuse, because he rolled up as a brown belt, and he lets you get positions and stuff, and then it's just like, if you're silly enough to believe that you got there out your own skill, like, you're in some serious trouble. Like, if he puts you into that position, you hold that position, you should take that as a win.
Yeah.
Don't worry about taps. Sometimes it doesn't even matter. But Martin is a different, because he's the head coach. Like, he can't be seen. It would look bad on him. Like,
he has to
now he doesn't let us get anywhere, so that's fine.
Absolutely not.
but then you see Jake is another example who he lets you get into positions because he wants to work. Maybe he wants to work on
a Hail Mary escape. Yeah.
And that's the difference in levels of, like, I never want another white belt to get like side control or like full mount or something, whatever it is.
So you can argue a lot of it's ego control.
Yeah,
as you move through the belts, the more in control of your ego that you've got, which the chimp effectively, the more trained it is, and the more in control it is, the more you're willing to let people do. Like, that's why David, because it's not something you just get a control of and then that's it forever.
Yeah.
It's something you constantly have to keep a control of, and that's why David lets us get in certain positions, because if he wanted, you've seen him in competition. If he wanted to, he could just, he could knock us out before we have a chance to tap. Yeah. Just within 30 seconds. But he knows that's not good for us, because he's at a teaching stage now, because he's so close. He's not that far off black belt.
No, he's not. No.
It's kind of, he's in a teaching phase now, so he knows he can handle himself, and he's quite comfortable and confident. So let the white belts and the blue belts try something and try and get in a position and see what a brown belt would do against it. So that's where your hole is. That's it. That's the next bit for me to work on.
But just so he knows, I'm coming after him.
Oh yeah, we'll wrap him like a pretzel when we get him next.
The thing about David is, I'm always coming after him. He knows this. I know he's
still training with his son.
He wants this quarantine to be extended, because he
needs more time. He needs more time.
But no, I hope he's doing all right. What was I going to say? I thought I was going to say one more last thing. Do you like?
What about your notes, man?
Yeah, but it's not written. I came into my head.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, I'm normally so good. Do you like the way I
avoided that percentage answer, didn't I?
You did, actually, but don't worry about it. You explained it right. Do you like the way I lower my seat down lower than the guest, actually?
Do you know what? I genuinely noticed that when we came in.
It's good, isn't it?
I thought, I wonder if he's done that on purpose.
Oh, he does it every time.
I like it.
Did notice the last time.
Control of the ego.
That's what it is. I see. I'm not one of these people. Like, I don't need to be. Like, I could tower up to the ceiling there of this chair, looking down at you. I don't need to be.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is you've accepted the demons, because you've had that vulnerability. You've shown it. You talked about it. That's part of embracing it and owning it. And so because of that, you're close to bulletproof, because it's kind of like, well, I get anxious. Now what? It's like you've said that to someone, so it's like, well, you can't make me anxious because I've accepted that I get anxious. So it's kind of like, you're almost like, I'm so used to being here in this place, you don't even it's kind of you've become a complete person who has the darkness, has accepted the darkness, made friends with it, more importantly, and it kind of makes you much more certainly likable, because you're not trying to show someone how interesting you are, you're just doing you.
Thank you very much. Blushing. Listen, I've had a great time, and do you know what? Like, obviously,
we're gonna go. I want to do a Rogan style one.
Do you know, actually,
you always cut me short.
I want to actually quick thing. I only saw this last night on YouTube, that he's gone off. Joe Rogan is for people who don't know, he's a very one of the biggest podcasters in the world. He went from YouTube to Spotify.
He's the Michael Jordan of podcasts. I know you don't like that.
No, Mark Maron is probably the Michael Jordan. I like Mark Maron better. But anyway,
never heard of him.
Oh, he's great. His partner died the other day. But probably not the time to bring it
Don't
up.
go down it. Go the
Don't
other
let's
way.
get, yeah, it's getting too dark.
Change it. Turn the wheel.
So he's huge on YouTube. I think it's over 7 million followers, and he's signed to Spotify from September.
You imagine how much they had to pay him to do
I
that.
can't even imagine what it was now that they gave him.
I can't imagine it's in the billions, but it's certainly in the hundreds, millions. Surely,
Oh, it would be.
Surely.
They're taking his
For exclusivity.
yeah. They're taking all his catalog
Off YouTube.
I don't know if they're taking him off YouTube, but all his
Jesus.
catalog will be available on Spotify, and then
Right. Okay.
they're rolling out the video for him, really,
Wow.
and it's exclusive or multi-year deal or whatever. He didn't. Obviously, they're not going to talk about the figures. Like, why would they? What do you think about that? Like, interesting enough, I think.
I think it's a great business. I mean, this is bitten straight from Gary Vee, but he was talking about the fact that you need to leverage, get on every platform, so you have so much leverage the way Joe Rogan does, that you can then specialize. Because you have that much leverage, you can specialize on Spotify for an unbelievable amount of money. Because I mean, he spent 10 years doing these podcasts, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Like, and it, all the time and effort and skills he's put into it, that gives him so much leverage, where he is the godfather of this stuff.
Yeah,
and
because
kind of Spotify,
he's going to have more control. That's another thing about it, apparently, that YouTube can demonetize videos if they want to.
Because I think that was annoying when that came into place. Like, they couldn't show clips anymore, or clips of music or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I understand it for the other artists, but it was a shame.
Yeah.
But he's obviously got his reasons for it, because I mean, he doesn't have to worry about money.
No.
So it won't just be money. As much as people want to say, it's just greed. It won't just be that, because he's never going to have to worry about money again.
No.
He has so many ventures and so much money and royalties coming in. He doesn't need to worry about money. So it won't just be the money, but I'd say if there must be an aspect of control to it.
I'd say there is, and do you know the first thing I thought of when I saw it, actually, and this is just selfish on my part. I was thinking, oh Jesus, I don't have to look at any more notifications coming up. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just pop up on your I'm not subscribed. Yeah, the way you have the YouTube homepage and all
the
those
recommended stuff.
The recommended, that's what it is. Sorry, not notifications. So I was recommended, because I always see him, and it's always the headline of saying Rogan. Like, he always.
I think you probably need to just accept that the stuff you watch.
I don't watch him, though.
Makes YouTube think, oh, he's a Joe Rogan fan.
Yeah, but I don't know what I watch.
He must be a Joe Rogan fan.
What would you think it would be, though?
Is it MMA stuff?
I do watch a bit of MMA stuff, yeah, but that's probably it. Yeah,
that could be it.
That'll be gone now, though, in September. I don't have to look at that anymore. Rogan thinks. Like, he's always. I hate that.
We could probably talk for 2 hours on your dislike of Joe Rogan, couldn't we?
Do you know, it's more.
Should we?
It's no, but
you don't want to get into it.
No, it's more his guests that I have a problem with. He
has such a wide ranging.
I don't know
style of guests. Like, he'll have a PhD and then a comedian that isn't funny.
Oh yeah, he has loads of them,
and then he'll go back and forth between that sort of stuff.
And this whole centrist thing, it just annoys me as well, because it gives him a free reign.
Don't touch politics.
But no, this is what he does, though, and he gives him free reign to be pro Trump, pro Biden. He'd jump around, and that's, to me, it's like, pick a side, will you?
Oh, isn't that the point of a centrist?
I hate it. I hate the fact that he voted for that Gary Johnson.
I don't want grey. I want black or.
I want black or white. He voted for that Gary Johnson fella there in 2000. Do you remember him?
No.
He couldn't tell you where, like, Senegal was or something. I can't remember the name of the country. He was asked a very simple question, but
where Senegal was?
Something like that. He was stoned all the time, sure.
Who, Rogan or the?
Well, Rogan's always stoned, but your man Gary Johnson.
Ah, right, okay.
He was running with Romney and no, it's hardly that far back. I think it was one of the Trump Clinton, I think. But yeah, no, like, each to their own and all that with Rogan. It's just, he's not for me. It's very alpha male stuff, and I don't like the alpha male stuff. I don't even like the word alpha.
You do.
No, I don't like it.
You just don't like the toxic side of it.
I don't like, I like to just say, it's nice the way to put it is like someone's a leader.
Yeah.
And
because alpha is the sort of like,
yeah, it's very like that.
America, that kind of thing.
Do you know
that is that sort of like that ego.
But
leadership is something.
Leadership, yeah. But he's fed that stuff from people like all those really crappy comics who circle around, orbit around him.
I won't ask who you're referring to.
You know who I'm referring to.
Because I just think the controversy is going to be
Schaub. Is that his name?
No, it's Brendan Schaub.
Schaub, his mate,
Brian Callen.
What's Tony Hinch? Tony Hinchcliffe?
He's a comedian, yeah.
He's not funny. No, there's a whole host of them. If you look at it,
I would disable comments on this.
But what's the other guy's name? Don't mind them.
Which one?
They don't put comments
What
on my
comedian?
Bobby Lee, there's another one.
Yeah.
Will Sass is not a comedian. Sure,
Chris
he's not.
D'Elia. No, he's more of an actor.
D'Elia is another one.
You don't like D'Elia?
No, but they're all just like...
Disrespectful. Who else don't you like?
There's loads of them.
Start the list.
But they're just the ones...
What is it about them you not like?
Do you know what, actually?
You know, like...
Do you know what it's like? I don't like stand-up. Stand-up.
See, this is a big problem.
Yeah, but
It's kind of like... I don't like footballers, therefore I don't like footballers. Or sorry, I don't like football, therefore it's kind of... It doesn't really... It's not your field then, so there's no reason to have any opinion on them at all.
Excuse me? This is my podcast.
But you don't like...
Hey, John.
You don't like stand-up.
John, don't put this one out.
Cancel this bit. Take this
Edit
out.
all
Take this
last-
out. Take this out.
The last 20... No, I just
We're
find...
about to get into it. We're about to close social distance.
I love a bit of... I love a bit of comedy, right? I do love to laugh and stuff like that.
But not stand-up.
No, because
it's a very specific type of comedy.
Yeah, and it's like this is the part where I tell the story. Yeah, but this is the part where I tell the joke and then you laugh and then and then I tell the
it's too formulaic.
Structured. Yeah. When to laugh. Whereas just if you watch a comedy film and even if it's old classics or newer stuff, it's just more.
Well, it might not be the comedians you don't like. You just don't care for the comedy.
Oh no, it's probably
because if you're into stand-up, I will give it you. They're not. None of them are my favorite. But their banter or
I mentioned that last week, didn't I?
Podcast, what? You don't like the word banter?
You know I didn't.
That's why I used it.
That's why I used it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm too old for this shit.
Hey, that's another one. Hey, by the way, I was told Josh told me that banter is pretty much English for crack, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It just used it a lot, like and bants in particular with the Z at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Instagram. Like I think Archbishop of Banterbury's probably but yeah, I think when they're having a laugh together, they can be hilarious. Like D'Elia and Brian Callen are hilarious because it's basically a double act. It's kind of like I'm gonna make fun of you and all that sort of stuff. And that I much prefer that because I must admit the stand up. It's a very different thing altogether. You can't play off anyone really the way you can in films and sitcoms and things like that. So I know what you mean, but if you're not into comedies, of course you're not going to like the comedians.
Yeah, I don't really watch too much. It's just when they come up on the recommended, and I see once it's like there's headlines on the recommended, and you're like, oh, this has to be the stupidest sentence I've ever read, so I have to go in and look at it. Yeah, it's just my curiosity.
Yeah, I think you have to build up a resilience to those.
Yeah, I need to stop watching them
because it's just I know what they're trying to do, and now I get almost offended by what they're trying to do.
Because it's clickbait.
That I won't click it. Just as like a.
It is clickbait. God, this is officially the longest podcast.
I mean, I could go for another hour if you'd like.
Well, legs gone numb. No, we can talk off, Mike. We can. We can curse.
What if we drop some gems?
Well, yeah, I don't think we're going to drop any gems. We have a jet, so I don't expect it to happen after. But yeah, I really enjoyed this podcast because it gave me a chance to just listen and talk. I was talking a lot the last few weeks. It took lots of pressure off me because obviously I wanted to be stay interesting and all that stuff, just so people continue to listen.
Do you know what I might suggest at some point? I read one of your short stories.
Oh, nobody wants to hear that. Ringo. You'd be like Ringo reading Thomas the Tank Engine. I just gotta fly through these bits that I have to do. Shout out to John. Obviously, he'll be putting this out on Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. To his family and Megan for keeping him on the bike. Thanks to my mum, my dad and my grandfather. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done already. We're trying to get the numbers up there. We're on Facebook, The Weekly Wheatley. We're Twitter, Wheatley_there. Instagram is Wheatley The Weekly. And then we're on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts and Radio Public. Yeah, what are we going to do for the day? It's like 20 to 2. It's great to have this done on a Friday. I don't have to record now for like a week and a half. This is unprecedented. Who's texting me at this hour?
You put it on silent. How unprofessional.
I normally leave it outside the room. I don't know why I didn't do that. Yeah, listen, Josh, thanks very much for doing this.
Always fun.
Appreciate it. Just so everybody knows, social distancing is being
implemented.
Implemented is the right word. So don't come crying to me. Listen, thanks very much. Have a nice week. You'll be enjoying this on Wednesday. Who knows what I'll be doing between now and Wednesday, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.